Hey everyone, my name is Taps, and I had the pleasure of being invited to speak with the great Crypto Rain about Ecomi, the OMI token, Veve, and crypto investing. Crypto Rain is a very successful crypto investor, YouTube content creator, and even got into OMI back in 2018. In our conversation, he actually discusses OMI price prediction, thoughts on the current price, the Veve app as a whole, and drops a ton of knowledge on the broader crypto market, including bull cycles, bear cycles. I thoroughly enjoy this conversation, and this is one that you do not want to miss.
There are several YouTube channels that frequently cover Ecomi, but I found my favorite is TapsTrades. And so my manager, Dr. of Steph, reached out to him and we set up this video for us just to chat and catch up and share our thoughts in the crypto space and especially on Ecomi. So join me in welcoming TapsTrades to the Crypto Rain channel.
Thanks so much for having me.
Taps, so good to have you. Yeah, there's not many content creators that I watch a lot myself, and I catch a good amount of your videos because you keep me up to date on Ecomi at a much deeper level than I would be able to or have time to myself. So thank you for that.
Thanks for the support, man. I really enjoy covering Ecomi. I obviously cover other crypto, but I'd say Ecomi probably 90% of my videos. But right back at you. I know that you cover a lot of different investments and altcoins, and I found a lot of value in your channel as well. So I really appreciate you taking the time to have me on and to chat.
Yeah. Now, you've been in crypto for how long?
So I started investing entirely back in 2018. I didn't really know anything about investing or finances growing up. And then one of my buddies who worked for a consulting firm was, I was trying to save all my shekels for a house eventually. And he's like, why don't you just invest while you're saving? It's not doing anything just sitting in the bank. And that was kind of the light bulb for me. So I started with stocks, but then I very minimally jumped into crypto. And, I didn't really fully dive in until really 2019, 2020, but 2018 is ultimately when I started my crypto journey.
Perfect timing to really be diving full in because that's at the bottom of the market. And what's rare is it's rare that new entrants really dive in then because it's what I call boring. Prices are down. So people think, oh, yeah, oh, crypto, Bitcoin's probably going to fail. There's no action in it. And so it's the very best time to buy, but it's the time when the least amount of new people are joining.
Yep. Yeah, no, agreed. And it just was kind of lucky timing on my part. Like someone just knew a lot about crypto and I knew nothing at the time. And so, I invested in XR or Ripple, back then XRP and EOS and a few others, and then kind of went much heavier in right around 2019, 2020. But from that point on, I was kind of hesitant initially because everyone was so naysaying crypto at that point, right? Because it had just absolutely tanked, right? And most people don't really think about investments the same way they do with crypto, and they don't really fully understand bear cycles and bull cycles, right? So like at the time, I was just kind of like, I'm gonna put my money here and not really care about it. Like it's not gonna be a lot of money. But then when I went a little bit heavier in 2019, 2020, like I had had enough time to really start educating myself, have conversations with much smarter people than myself, and just try to absorb it. And that's kind of where I saw the writing on the wall that, okay, I need to lean heavier into crypto. I understand the blockchain technology, like having conversations with clients and stuff. And so that's where I really started leaning heavier in, separate from, stocks and real estate.
Yeah. Now, I noticed at the beginning of your videos, I think just about everyone, you mentioned that you're a stock, real estate, and crypto investor. So are you still investing in stocks and real estate, or is that more your past?
So, I'm still I would say I'm more of like or at least was a swing trader when it came to stocks. But
Mhm.
between the YouTube channel and how crazy everything has been with crypto and building community, I'm really not actively swing trading anymore, more just holding my stocks, my picks that I know like I can just have them sit and they'll just accumulate with some, like a few riskier ones just to keep the blood warm. But and I was going to actually be acquiring more real estate or more residual income, but I ended up kind of laying it all out and just looking and saying, well, really, like if I'm going to put that large of a down payment into another property in, another state or whatever I want to do, I can make probably more with crypto if I just really focus on the timing, the right investment, And so at this current time, I'm not really taking on a ton more properties, instead just kind of leveraging more crypto and NFTs.
Yeah, my background was real estate investment too. And it took me a little while, but I completely eventually gave up real estate investing for crypto because the returns are just unparalleled
Mm-hmm.
in crypto if you understand the cycles and if you understand how to kind of scrub down to get a good project that's in a good narrative with a good team and then hold it during the right time periods. And so it's like crypto is get rich slow
Yep.
and hope you don't sink yourself by making some, rookie mistakes. And crypto is like, well, if you're investing money that you can't afford to lose, and you don't have to invest the larger quantities like you often have to in real estate. And so you'll usually make some mistakes when you're new, but you figure it out. And then within these shorter cycles, because from top to top, real crypto is usually a 4-year cycle, which is amazingly short. From top to top in real estate, it's often like 12 to 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so like a very short life cycle. So that means, the top of the real or the crypto market is sometimes just 2 years away from where the bottom is. And so you can invest in the bottom and be at the top 2 years later. I mean, what other cycles can do that?
Yeah.
And so the returns are outsized versus what your risk is. So if you put $1,000 in, your risk is you could lose a full $1,000, but you could make 20,000, or you could, if you get really lucky and you time it well, and make 100,000. Like, where else can you do that?
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I mean, it's the most lucrative market in the world, and it's just kind of about timing. And it's also, I mean, right now, like, I mean, the bull cycle is always exciting, right? Like, we always get caught chasing, even if we have the right mentality around it, right? We're like, oh, this seems awesome, like, gonna get, and then you chase it, and then it dips. But a lot of people then will move it to another investment, and then that one dips, right? So I'm a big fan of the psychology of money, and kind of being dead inside when it comes to, seeing something drop, because how I look at it is, all right, if I have enough dry powder on the side, when I start to see like, okay, like we're getting a little bit topish, maybe I'm going to start taking some profits, or maybe those riskier ones didn't quite work out how I wanted to, so I'm going to take some of that and put it into like a safer bet. But I really want to make sure that, all right, I have my long holds, I have my highest convictions, and then also I have enough on the side, so whenever the inevitable bear cycle does happen again, I have the best entry point possible, because that's where I believe like the true millionaires are made, is in those down markets.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell a lot of my audience that if they'll commit to be here for 5 years, or basically this bull run, the crypto winter that follows, and then the next bull run, they give themselves the best chance at doing extremely well. Because I know a lot of people are just joining now, or they're just joining in the last maybe 6 or 7 or 8 months. And they're putting a lot of pressure on themselves that, like, okay, I need to turn this $2,000 into $2 million. And it could happen, but often it's going to lead you to the very riskiest bets that have the lowest likelihood of working out. Or if they just broaden their timelines, like, okay, can you go from $2,000 to maybe $20,000 to $40,000, take your profits out at the top and reinvest those in the crypto winter. And then your chances of getting to $1 million go way, way up.
Right.
So some other questions, you answered some of them for me. When you started crypto, we all come in, I guess you kind of answered that too. You started with EOS and a few others, XRP and Ripple, which even during the bear market, actually EOS had a pretty big takeoff during the bear market, as well as XRP had some cycle, and then it just kind of went down for a long time. What other ones did you then find? Because when we're new, we usually buy the things that our friends are telling us about,
Mm-hmm.
especially the ones that our friends had gains in. So almost always when we come in, we end up buying the top of something, and then it settles. And then the smart people stick around and be like, okay, well, shoot, I like that project. Timing probably wasn't the best that I bought it, but okay, I was new. Of course, I'm going to make some mistakes. What did you then evolve to that you really started liking in the crypto ecosphere?
Yeah. I mean, so Ripple and EOS were really like the main ones that I got into back then. And it's because I could really understand what they were trying to build. But and I would have gone into Bitcoin, but at the same time, I was a newer investor, right? So I didn't really understand that you could buy fractional shares of Bitcoin. So I just saw the bigger price, right? Which at the time, man, like that was a bigger price for us then, right? But so I didn't get any Bitcoin or Ethereum. But then as time went on, before we started this bull cycle that we're now in, I had enough time to really learn more about crypto. And what made sense to me was the kind of crypto that was going to have the highest chance of really hitting the mainstream first, right? So I went into VE Chain, I went into Chainlink, I went into Cardano, and Cardano is probably one of my highest gainers. Starting, I think I got in like summer 2020, and then now we're 14 months later, and it went from I think 11 cents up to hit $3, and I'm still holding, but been able to stake and all that as well. So Zilliqa, quite a few HBAR, quite a few other ones that if they made sense to me and I see that they're going to be a long hold, I'm going to invest in them. And, I was learning a lot. And that's actually one of the hardest parts of when you're a content creator is you unfortunately lose a lot of that time where you're actually able to learn about more and more like active new investments. But, when I was just an investor before I started creating content, that's actually how I found OMI, which is now my biggest bag, my favorite crypto to speak about, my favorite project, because I think it was Blockchain Andy, who was a big Zilliqa content creator at the time, which is another one of my holdings. And so that's how I stumbled on OMI, and to date, that is now my biggest holding.
Yeah, smart bet in my own opinion. None of this financial advice.
None
We're
of this
just
is ever
crypto
financial
and
advice.
we're just crypto investors ourselves, sharing with you what we think for our own portfolios. What you decide at home for your portfolio, that's really up to you. We all get to put our big boy pants on and or big girl pants and make decisions for ourselves. And when we make them wrong, well, we learn from them. Yeah, I like Ecomi myself. What I saw, like I was lucky enough, well, kind of, to invest in the pre-sale of Ecomi back in 2018.
Wow.
I have
Yeah, I
no
read in
idea.
your OMI homie, or why OMI is my homie article. And when I read that, I was like, oh man, this guy's been in quite some time. So it's like up like 15,000% since then or something like that.
Yeah, the pre-sale was a pretty good price. Now, unfortunately, I have no idea where that bag is.
Oh,
And it's on some GoChain wallet. Back then, GoChain was a new thing, and I created one and sent it over. Apparently, I created two because the main GoChain wallet didn't have it on it. And so I spent hours looking for it. So now it's kind of, well, it's decreasing the circulating supply of Ecomi. But I had my friend do some calculation. I only put about $400 in at the time. It was one ETH worth. And my friend said worth about $80,000. And I was like, okay, well,
yep.
I've made worse decisions in my life, but as far as losing it, unfortunately, I didn't keep track of Ecomi and what was going on in 2000, early or late 2020, early 2021. It really didn't come back onto my radar. I kind of thought about them a little bit. And when I saw their name, I was like, oh, Ecomi, what are they doing? But that wasn't till February 2021. And my channel was pretty new. And I was like, oh, Ecomi, yeah, what have they been up to? They're supposed to have these NFTs. And by then they already had their app. And I was like, wait, their app's open. And so I went and they had already, I looked through, I was like, this is amazing. They have totally delivered on this. And the funny thing is when they launched, they were pitching two things. The big thing that they were putting a lot of focus on was their wallet that was like a credit card, which personally I could care less about. What really hit me was the NFTs idea and the connections that they had for making that happen. They delivered on those connections more than I could have imagined that they did. And so when I saw their app and they have Batman Black and White, and I was like, man, I couldn't get the ultra rare one. It was already sold out. The Rizzo, right?
Yep. The resale.
Batman #1. I was like, oh, it looks so cool. And it was all sold out and they didn't have the marketplace open back then. So I loaded up on the McFarlanes and some of the other ones, told everybody I knew about it. And I was like, this is going to do exceptionally well. By then the token actually was like 0.25 cents. And I was like, it's pumped so much. I'm not going to buy it till I see a nice retracement. So I did watch it go all the way to 1.4 cents and then watched it kind of retrace back before I started making my entries.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, good on you though for seeing. I mean, back then it was an idea, right? 2018, like if you understand the leadership behind Ecomi, they're stacked. I mean, like David Yu and Dan Carruthers are, the two co-founders, and David Yu was already a wildly successful businessman in the licensing and branding. I mean, he basically has been working with, like Pokemon and many other licensors since he was like 17, 18 years old. And so like 20 years ago, right? So he started, and that was, I think, at the traded card game side. But he's been ingrained in the world of licensing and licensors and branding for decades, right? So like he goes to shows, he knows everyone who's anyone, right? So he knows a lot of the big brands. And then Dan Carruthers has been well versed in the technology space, and also I think in the in some form of market, or some form of like actual digital goods service. But he very much the technology side, and was the one who approached him and said, hey, like this is a thing with blockchain, we really should take a look at this and bring what they had was a passion of collecting to life through Veve. And back then, you're right, like it was just the Ecomi wallet, but it started to evolve into, okay, they've been working with all these brands and licensors and telling them what the value was around NFTs before NFT hype was really here, right? Like NFTs back then, no one really understood it. So they had to sell something that not even crypto people fully understood to people who are non-crypto. And they've been selling that idea now for 3 years, almost 4 years, right? And then the app kicked off. Actually, they just celebrated their 1 year anniversary of it a few weeks ago. And so that was when they did the first launch of the Veve app, which is, of course, where you can collect the digital collectible NFTs and display them in augmented reality. And it's just been gangbusters. I actually joined Veve and OMI investing back in February as well. And so I actually did manage to get in like right at that time. I think it was mid-February, and I do have the reso. That was when it was still available in the store. I think I spent $69 for it, and today it's roughly around $6,000 or so.
Yeah.
So I mean, as for ROI, my OMI investment is up, and my Veve collectibles are also way up. So it's kind of like a double-edged, I want to say sword, but it's not really cutting me. It's just making money, right? So
Yeah, their value proposition is pretty amazing. Like, what's funny to me is in my opinion, their token is still vastly undervalued. So their total market cap, what is it, 1.2 billion? Or let me just get an updated number on that.
I think they sit around like 212 or something like that right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna just pull it up so I can look at exactly what it is. They've had some increases in their circulating supply. Their team unlocks have been happening because they really launched a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And so to me, it's not a big deal. Okay. No, it's under $1 billion right now. At least CoinMarketCap is saying that. I think it can go so much better than this. And part of what's been holding it back is some things that they're working on. I mean, one of the secrets in this business is identifying things that still have problems, that are the solutions are being integrated, but they haven't been integrated yet. And so you see what's coming, and it's almost like a no-brainer. It's like, well, what exchanges is OMI on? And it's like, well, actually some exchanges you might not have ever heard of before, and they're very small exchanges. Well, why would I buy it? Well, because I like to buy them when they're hard to get on random exchanges that you don't know very well. And lots of people have heard of BitMax and also Gate.io that they're on now. But for a long time, it was on BitMax and Bit4X, and I don't remember if it was on OKX. But it was difficult, and still is somewhat difficult to get. It's not on Binance, not on Coinbase. But it's the level of project that my guess is Binance and Coinbase will be very interested in. And there's some rumors that it might have some Binance listing coming. We'll see if it plays out. But this is exactly the type of project that would do well on Binance and make them a lot of money, would do really well on Coinbase and make them some money. But there's some technology things that they have to work out when they initially decide to go on Go chain. versus Ethereum fees were really high. There was a lot of congestion on the network, and GoChain looked like a very good alternative. GoChain didn't hit the market effects that it needed. And so it ended up being a choice that I understand completely why they made it. And the time with the factors that they were weighing seemed like a smart choice, but all it is a guess. And it was a decision they made. It did make it so they have very cheap transactions, which is cool because it's been very cheap to send things. But the problem is most major exchanges don't have nodes running GoChain. So they couldn't take the token over there without paying huge fees to get it on there. And so now that they're going over to Ethereum and specifically Immutable X, which wasn't even around back then, but is now getting a lot of adoption and stuff, then all of a sudden they'll be able to have their token be picked up by the major exchanges. And so I want to load up way before then. In fact, on this big retracement, I covered it all the time, and I was just kept dollar cost averaging in more. And I know much of my audience did too. And I have my audience members, sometimes ask me, and they're like, "Oh, we're way up on Ecomi. When are you selling?" I was like, my first take profit area is probably 8 cents. And they're like, "You're crazy. That's 10x from here." And I was like, I am crazy. It's true, but that's where my first take profit is on this. And they're like, "What, 10x?" I mean, it's actually 20x from where I loaded up on a whole bunch of it. And they're like, "Why so far?" It's like, that usually isn't the case. Usually I'm taking my initial out far sooner than that. But I see what they're setting up, and they have gotten most of the major licenses out there and some of the coolest NFT collectibles like out there. They're not yet tradable where everyone is Ethereum rich. Like their own application is its own island right now. So you have to take money, cash it out from Ethereum. You got to cash it out to fiat, send your fiat into the Veve app in order to then be able to spend lots of money for these really cool collectibles. But at some point they'll make it so a lot of these collectibles can then be sent to OpenSea, and then you'll be able to trade them where everybody is ETH rich. Because I was thinking about it in context. I was like, okay, well, at the time, the Rizzo Batman was going for about $2,000, and that's less than 1 ETH. And I was like, well, if that was on OpenSea, it'd probably go for about 6 ETH. Massive discount.
Right, and it's a direct DC branded NFT, right? And it's been professionally rendered because the quality of their content is bar none, right? There's tons of amazing NFT artists out there. Like, I collect plenty of NFTs outside of Veve as well, but you can't really have anything that is Marvel or DC unless, actually DC did do a thing with fandom recently, but there isn't really much quality content with larger main brands besides some very, very eclectic ones. So it's all on Veve. Like, they have over 150 licensors that we can see, and we probably know about 20, 25 that have been announced. And the ones that have been announced have been awesome, right? Like Cartoon Network and Marvel and DC. Jurassic Park is going to be eventually coming. Ghostbusters. I mean, all the nostalgic stuff that we've collected as kids. And the fact that you can add them in augmented reality, like real life actual usability, has built our community up really, really fast. I mean, the community is rabid. We are professional marketers for our investment because we love the company. We love our collectibles so much that it doesn't even feel like we're shilling or that we're going to work or anything, right? So I agree with you on there. I can't wait to see them go on to OpenSea because it won't be their X amount of gems. It'll actually then be related to the NFT mentality where it's like, oh, this is only 0.4 ETH or 0.6 ETH versus, well, I have to, I just spent 3 ETH on this other NFT and it doesn't look half as cool. And so I do think that'll be a big piece of it. And I agree with you, even though it shot up like 15,000% or something in the past year, there is so much more to go because all of these catalysts have not happened because they are currently at the tail end of phase 2 of making the migration from GoChain to Immutable X. And for those who don't know, Immutable X is one of the most progressive layer 2 solutions on Ethereum. So it's actually perfect for them too, because what you'll be able to do is it's a gasless in a sense. So you bring all your collectibles in and you'll actually be able to batch send them, right? So you could actually not just sell, here's one Batman, here's one Superman. I'm going to batch sell you a full collection of, let's say, 8 sets or maybe you want to buy 10 Batmans from me, so I can batch send it to you through ERC 1155. So there's so many benefits, but with that move to Immutable X comes, like you said, the ability for exchanges, because right now they're only available on 5 exchanges. So it is very much not an investment for, I would say, everyone who's newer to crypto and has a very short kind of patience sense, right? Because it's been, I think I've been invested in 7 months, and in my mind, that's not a long time, or I guess 8 months, but that is really short for some, compared to stocks, compared to real estate, compared to any other even long hold cryptos. It is really a blink of an eye in terms of investing, and it's still way up from my initial investment. So they have so much more to come. And once they actually start executing on some of these major catalysts like that with the Immutable X move, with the Master Collector program that's going to be happening, with the ability to stake your OMI, and the Veveverse coming in 2022, the actual full metaverse, which is very exciting. That is why I am still holding, if not sold, a single OMI, and don't plan to take profit to probably right around your zone either, and it'll be a very slight profit because I plan to stake my OMI for multiple years.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to have some incentives for people to stake their token, and their master collector incentives for holding the collectibles as well as the token, which gives the token an even better use case, right? So, I get rewarded for holding it, and it has created its own fan club around it. They've done such a good job, like at the leadership, that like we trust them. We trust who they are, who they show themselves as, their transparency. And so we're like, okay, I understand who these guys are, and I trust them, and that they're doing good things. And so this is something I believe in as an ecosystem. And the collectibles that they put out are ridiculously amazing compared to the other NFTs out there. I have like 5 Meebits, and Meebit's cool. They're 3D. They're nothing compared to the augmented reality, like the Slimer, that you can then put a ghost trap below him and then catch him in the ghost trap, right? I had to get one of those, even though like I at the time I bought the ghost trap, I paid about 1,000 for it, and then it dropped to like 500 after, and I was like, but still, like I had to have one of those because it's so cool to be able to do that. And nobody has NFTs at that level, except for them. And so at the time, I remember when they were taking off, and there was another one, Terra Virtua Collect, which is cool, but I was evaluating between the two. I was just like, so I had people ask me about that all the time, but the truth is, I was like, I could get a Maverick helmet, and that's cool. And they do have some dinosaurs, and they have some other things, but I was like, Veve has Batman, they have Harley Quinn, they have all these other brands that are just so much bigger and better. They position themselves well because in NFTs, the licenses are everything. And it's funny that it just, when it goes one direction, somebody's getting all the top licenses, it makes it easier for them to get more of the top licenses. So including digital comic books. I mean, how huge is that? Somebody would have told you a year ago, they're going to have digital comic books that are going to sell for about 10,000 times what you paid for them. Like I happened to get lucky on the King comic book drop, and literally I only got 2 of them, one for me, one for my wife. She got the ultra rare, and I got the secret rare. And I was
really?
like,
oh man,
in the world? And it's like mint number like 337 even. I was like, oh my gosh. So $7, I paid $7 for it. And at one point it was worth like $60,000, and it's retraced to, I think the floor is about 20,000 or even 14,000 for the floor.
Because the $7.
Yeah. And where else can you do that? And of course that's lucky. Since then I used up all my luck on that one that, almost always on the comic book drops, it's commons for both me and my wife. But I was like, okay, well, shoot, even the commons triple in value. But if you happen to get lucky and you get one of the ultra rares, or especially, if you just keep playing, eventually you get a secret rare. Usually the floor on those, even right away, is over $1,000. So,
I've definitely, when it comes to drops, I don't have the best luck, unfortunately, but I do have more of a connection with collectibles. I've always been a collector, so this right away spoke to me. And and you mentioned Terra Virtua Collect earlier. I think what they're building is going to be really cool, and I do agree that Ecomi and Veve has absolutely cornered the market, and like they are very much crushing it with the branding licensing. But there are going to be others who are going to come into the space, and I think because the space is so nascent, it's very healthy, right? Like everyone's going to be able to pick their poison. There's going to be overlap. Like you can have some, robots and Godzilla on Terra Virtue Collect, and you can have Batman and Marvel and all that on Veve, and there's also Blanco's Block Party. There's a bunch of things that are kind of coming to the fold, but Veve has solidified themselves so early with the branding and license for years that they're going to absolutely crush. But I have a lot of different sets on the collectible side, but I've had really bad luck on the comics. So I'm the common gang, right? Like I only get commons, it seems, but I'm really hopeful I get a secret rare one day, because we always kind of joke among the community. And for those who don't know, like we consider the comic drops, which there's usually at this point one every single week or sometimes two. There's one this morning. It's almost like a digital lottery ticket, because you only have a chance to get one. And just to put that in perspective, they drop 30,000 to 60,000 editions, and it sells out like that in a second, like not even a second. So if you get one, you just wait for it to see, like, did I get a common, an uncommon, a rare, an ultra rare, secret rare? If you get a secret rare, the minimum it's usually going to hit is $1,000. So you spent $7, and then you now have $1,000. But if it's a bigger comic, like what you got with Kang the Conqueror, I mean, it can shoot up to $20,000. The Spider-Man #1 was $40,000. I think more than that. So it really is kind of money that changes people's lives. And because you don't need crypto to actually use the app, you can use it with fiat. It's bridging that gap between what the NFT world and the crypto world are saying to the actual mainstream, and what gets people excited about collecting, and then they can kind of bridge both sides, right? So that's why I'm so passionate about Ecomi too, is because I'm always looking for that real life, what's going to be the mainstream crypto that's going to really change our lives first. And that's why I'm in like VE Chain and Chainlink, right? Like I understand how it's going to affect real life technology and real life fandom. And that's also why I'm invested in Ecomi and Veve, because it just makes so much sense, and it's going to be more affluent as crypto slowly takes over the mainstream.
Absolutely. What's funny is with how dominant they are, that their market cap is under $1 billion right now, with the fully diluted market cap at 4.5 billion, which sounds like a lot. It's not. I mean, my guess is we're going to see the total crypto market cap cross over 10 trillion at the top of this market, which leaves room for a lot of projects like Veve could do 50x from here. It could do 100x. Do I know if it will? Well, I don't know about you, but the crystal ball I bought at Walmart, it doesn't work. It doesn't tell me anything. So I tried one of those 8 balls. It's just often wrong. So I don't use that. So I don't have a magic crystal ball to see the future. What I do is I make strategic bets. It's like, okay, in my opinion, vastly undervalued at current price, even though it's 0.6 cents. And it's not as cheap as it used to be. It's a lot cheaper than it has been in the past. And so I've just dollar cost averaged in a lot. And at 8 cents, I'll think about start taking some profits. And if it doesn't get to 8 cents, that's okay. I'll just stake it for upping my master collector score, especially if they do a good job on giving us like special access. If you have a whole bunch of complete sets and everything, then you get special access to buy these things. That will keep my attention and probably keep my Ecomi just staked, because it's fun to participate in that.
Yeah,
it is
sorry.
Interesting to watch these digital comics. I didn't collect regular comics, though I collected baseball cards, some other things. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these digital comic books don't exceed the value of what the original paper ones from like 1962 were at. And I know it sounds crazy, but it also is because the world is going so digital. There's 2 reasons behind it. If you think about it, people think in terms of, well, there's no way such and such project, no way Cardano can have a bigger market cap than Tesla. And I was like, well, why would you say that? Well, because Tesla has been around and they're producing actual products. And I was like, well, let me ask you, if you live in the Philippines, can you buy Tesla stock? No, not really. Yeah, especially if you're poor. If you have all the right connections, you can from anywhere in the world. But for the most part, 90% of the world can't access Tesla stock.
Yep.
But can they buy Cardano? Well, yeah. Okay. So in other words, Cardano has access to 100% of the world, and Tesla stock has access to 10% of the world. And so you can't see that Cardano could do much better than Tesla's market cap. I can. And they're like, well, what can it really do? It's like, well, what can it do now compared to what will it be able to do 10 years from now? It's a different thing. Like, it was hard to imagine all the things that internet would be able to do when I was, using, what was it, like America Online to dial up on the internet, and those ringtone,
Yep.
like the dial tones and stuff. And who would have imagined that we would be able to have videos that we could watch and educate ourselves on and get all kinds of content? If something in the house breaks, we'd be able to YouTube a video on how to fix it and stuff, all through this thing called the internet that we had to painfully sit there as the phone connected. And while you were on your phone line connecting to the internet, nobody could call in because they'd get a busy signal. And so who would have foreseen where it would go? I mean, there's places that crypto is going to go that's amazing, and most of the world has access to it. So some of these market caps are going to get hit numbers that are completely unfathomable now. And people say, oh, when I tell them some of my price prediction on things, they're like, that's crazy. It should never hit that. And I was like, well, you used the right word for it. It should never hit that this cycle. But don't confuse that with it won't hit that this cycle.
Yep.
Because of human psychology and how we are, and we tend to FOMO in, we tend to buy in chasing these big green candles. Oh my gosh, my friend made 50x on such and such coin. I'm going to jump in.
Oh man,
that's exactly how it is.
You mentioned Tesla, and that literally just happened. Tesla's, just has an all-time high. I think it's over $1,000 now. And I'm a Tesla shareholder, and one of my friends, I told them to get into Tesla a while back, and they reached out to me recently and were like, "Oh man, you're right. Like, shut up. Like, I'm going to get in now." I'm like, I mean, now it's at an extreme all-time high, and that's kind of, and like, I got to tie it back to OMI because I've made this comparison multiple times. But yeah, its market cap is low, but also people look at how many circulation it has in coins, and it's pretty massive, right? Like, it's in the hundreds of billions. And they're like, that's huge, and like, there's no way it's going to deplete all that. But the way I look at it is in two factors. One, I want to get into an investment when it's so early, right? Like, if I can get into a series A, B, C, D even investment before it goes public, or before it just really is like known by the massive, not Tesla at a high, that's when you're going to make life-changing money. And that's where OMI is right now, before its full utility on its token has really come into play, before it's on major exchanges, before it's, the number one coin that's talked about on every channel eventually. But that's the piece that I really want to focus on, because I really want to get into those early investments, and that's where it's really at. And its market, or how much its circulating supply is, it's a lot, but they built it to last a long period of time. But we're burning. So for those who don't know, when you buy a collectible with gems on the Veve app, it burns the OMI token, and that is right now its only utility. And so its circulating supply, it's burning billions. So that, a couple $100 billion in circulating supply is going to deplenish over the years pretty quickly. And so that's going to add on with more utility that's coming. So you'll be able to buy collectibles with OMI Direct. You'll be able to use OMI in the Metaverse that they're building, Veveverse, as well as being able to stake and other little perks that tie to the app. So when it comes to the tokenomics of it, just hang on and make sure you have a bag. Obviously not financial advice, but that's how I think about it, because it's just so early. And even though we're at this stage.
Yeah, agreed. I don't care what the total supply of tokens in near as much as what the market cap is. The market cap tells me everything. And I prefer for a token to be cheaper per token and have a lot of them over there's only 21 of them and they're 27,000 a piece or whatever, right? If the market cap was the same as something that then had 1 billion tokens, the one with 1 billion tokens, because of human psychology, even if it's the same project, because people see the tokens as cheaper, it does well. Because new people, when they come in, and I try to explain this to some of my real estate friends when they got into crypto, and they're like, oh, I'm going to buy this one because it's only half a cent. And you're like, I know it seems like it's only half a cent, but you got to look at what the market cap is. And it takes them a solid 4 months to wrap around their mind around that. For the first 4 months, they buy what is the cheapest token price until they finally get it. So I was like, well, shoot, if I was a project and I was setting up my token supply, I would set up a much higher total token supply because of that principle. It helps your project do better just because people just look at the token price. Wait, Bitcoin's, I don't even know what it is today, 63,000 or whatever the number is. God, that's so expensive, but I can buy a Ecomi for half a cent. Okay, I'm going to buy 7 million of them or whatever, right? And they think that way. So it was smart that they did it that way. As well as they have a lot of their fully diluted market cap is over 4 times what it is. So I do look at their circulating supply versus the fully diluted market cap. And they have very good explanations for that. A lot of their tokens they use in the ecosystem that they have in reserves because they have to burn them when things are sold on the app. And so it makes sense behind it. What I do get concerned about is when there's such a difference between what is their current circulating supply and the total supply. The only thing I'm concerned about with that is if all of a sudden somebody gets unlocked like 20 billion tokens and then they dump them on the market. But if it's a strong enough project, even if somebody did that, eventually buyers would burn through all that and then it would just resume because now all those tokens now changed into longer term hands. And no problem. Right. So when I look down the road, I think, is this company going to be around for this run? Are they possibly going to be around for the next run? Are they possibly going to be around for 20 years? And Ecomi is one of the few that I look at and I say, probably going to be around for 20 years. And they are somewhat dependent on brands, right? Like if all the licenses went away, they couldn't get any new renewals or couldn't get any big licenses, they'll be a little bit stuck. But it's kind of like they've nailed enough of the big ones. And if they create their Veveverse and they do a good job with that, I think the brands are going to continually come to them because they want to put their name, associate their name with Ecomi. And so that they're offering some real lasting value because they've kind of like went through all the pains and all the hard things that create enough of a name for themselves that all the big brands will be fighting over continuing to associate their name with Ecomi, especially if their Veveverse turns out to be great.
Yep.
Who knows?
And if you notice, that's kind of the way that a lot of NFT projects are going, is where the big sell is, oh, we're going to have a metaverse. And I think a lot of them are going to be not so much a true metaverse. It's going to be more like almost like a Club Penguin where they all hang out like at a chat room, right, and run around and talk. But Ecomi and Veve have been building, or you can actually look at on the patent office side and see that they submitted the Veveverse brand and started talking about it and kind of going through that process at the beginning of 2020, well before most of these crypto projects have ever even, some of them even existed or even started looking into building a metaverse, besides, of course, like, Sandbox and Decentraland. But they went the opposite route where they built all the user base side before the metaverse, right? So they've actually outgrown in terms of user base, Decentraland, and I think Sandbox as well, a lot. So they had like the best problem in the world, which was they thought that they would be around 60,000 users by the end of this year. And it's somewhere around, I think, over 600,000 at this point, and they're targeting hopefully 1 million users by the end of the year. So that was one thing that kind of really jumped out to me, and it's the fact that they thought ahead, saw the writing on the wall, are already executing on so much of the product side, and that everything is just kind of catching up on the investment side, right? So I've worked with a lot of different tech companies on the emerging tech side. I've directly consulted several different spaces, in like IoT, edge, augmented reality, even in blockchain. And that's what really sold me so much, is that I have never seen a team that's associated with technology company that is this agile, that is able to execute and keep all of us in the know on a pretty much every couple days basis. And that's why, like, I would love to cover more crypto projects on my channel, but I just don't have the time because they come out with updates pretty much every 3 days at this point. So I'm like, all right, like, I finished shooting this video, like, all right, I've been engaged with the community. All right, now they just came out with some more updates. I have to update them now. So it's like this constant loop. So when I can sneak in, like another video on like Cardano or Illuvium or some other content that I've covered, it's kind of like, all right, there's like a week where they didn't have a breakthrough announcement that I can now cover something new.
Yeah, you're right. And they're full hitting their stride and racing faster than everyone out there. And what will be interesting to see what happens with their token during the crypto winter, which I stuck around and continue to invest. I noticed only a couple projects actually did well during the crypto winter. In fact, most altcoins had anywhere between a 97% to a 99.5% retracement. But there were two that did well. And one was Binance's token, BNB, which was $6 at the beginning of the bear market and $30 at the end of the bear market. Or depending on when you count it, it might be 16, depending on where you're saying that end was. But it still actually went a positive direction rather than a negative direction. And then the other thing was Chainlink, which did tremendously during the bear market. So I think, well, what's the common denominator there? And the truth is Chainlink was continuing to make partnership after partnership after partnership. And they were making all the right partners and they were lining up these deals that people were actually using their service. Binance had a ton of usage even during crypto winter. They were hugely profitable and they continued to evolve their use case and give their token better and better use case. Time they started a launch pad. They then started so you then had to stake Binance token on their platform in order to participate in the launch pad, which was a use case that didn't exist. So they continue to use being cash rich to improve the use case for their token. And so their token continue to appreciate. And my guess is this cycle will have more of those. So what has a chance of doing that? Well, I do look for companies that are cash rich, that they have revenues coming in, solid revenues, that they'll probably still have solid revenues coming in during crypto winter. And you don't know for sure if they'll appreciate during that time, but those are your best bets for those that are just going to hodl during the 4-year cycle and they're not going to take a bunch of profits out and put it on the sidelines like I'm going to do. My opinion is that's what you're looking for, is ones that'll be revenue positive, that can continue to reinvest and grow their services or what their offering is during that time, because most everything else will probably see some big retracements. But some people will fight me on that and they say, no, that's not going to happen. This time it's going to keep going up. I was like, well, they said that in 2013. Didn't happen. They said it in 2017. Unfortunately, I was new enough, I believe them. But as to whether it happens this time, what my guess is it will. And all you have to do is look back to March to see what happened there, where we had this early year pickup that was uncharacteristic. It didn't do this in 2017. It did in the 2013 cycle. And then it retraced from there significantly. So if we have a really massive run, like I think is coming, where even Bitcoin, say 5x's from here or 4x's from its current price, and then a lot of altcoins 10 or 100x, you better believe that there will be a big correction coming for almost all of them. And it just is human psychology. When you have this massive FOMO cycle, it's always followed by massive retracements. In crypto, those retracements can happen fast because when people see prices going down, they panic sell. Even if they bought in right at the top and they see it lose half their value, they then exit at that point. And I wish they wouldn't FOMO in and buy those huge green candles. And I try to tell people not to do that, but my audience is only so big, and as I'm trying to override people's emotional responses when they don't know me, and I'm saying, don't FOMO into that. It's just 100x. No, it's going to keep going up. It's like, yeah, I'm not your financial advisor. You get to make your own decision, but I wouldn't be buying that. It's kind of like walking out in the middle of the lake and saying the ice isn't going to break because it hasn't broken yet. And it's like the farther you get into the middle, actually in true ice, it's actually close to the edges where it's the thinnest. Right. But, let's just say in the middle, it gets thinnest. Yeah, the farther you get to those parabolic gains, the thinner the ice gets, and at some point it breaks through.
Yep. At the end of the day, it's still a financial market. It's the most lucrative and it's the wildest, but it's also, for the most part, one of the few that's been most true too, right? Like it's always kind of aligned with the Bitcoin halving. And this market or this cycle has been vastly different from any others, right? Like I kind of thought it was going to end around the end of October, because when we had looked at it back in, I think I did a video on it like back in like May or something like that, or April, it just kind of seemed like it was trending very similar to the past bull cycle. But then we had this big dip, like big dip for, all through summer, basically until August. And then things started picking back up again. And now we're at an all-time high as of the past couple of weeks. And I do believe, Bitcoin has more run, Ethereum has more run. we're really running into a lot of positive, more bullish news again in the vaster world. But at the end of the day, it is still a financial market. There's still going to be a correction. Eventually, people will, in all forms, take profit, which will create a sell-off. And then there's all the outside factors too, right? Like, I'm not sure where you're located, but in the US, there is a lot of heavy talk on tapering and inflation, and that's going to become a reality when you're, just when the money printer is just going crazy, right? So eventually there will be a collection of things that will create a descending channel on what we've seen on the gains of all crypto. And it starts with Bitcoin, and then altcoins will take their gains from Bitcoin, they'll put them in altcoins, and then it'll eventually trail down as well. And I agree. I think, we could see anywhere from 80 to 90%, take back from a lot of the highs that we're going to see on most alts, but there will be some that don't have as hard of a hit. And I try to be very, fundamental thinking and more realistic and not so much a moon boy, as I think YouTube needs more realism and a little bit less moon boy. And so I am realist in a sense, like people say, oh, like, is OMI a bear proof token? I say nothing is bear proof. Nothing is bear proof. Do I think it'll rescend to 80 to 90%? No. I think it has enough value that it will maybe take like, a 40 to 60% hit, but not 80 to 90% because of the tokenomic model and what's already tied to the app. And I don't believe that it'll be as hard hit, but make sure that you're prepared to actually take advantage of that bear cycle. And that's why I always have some dry powder on the side, so I can throw more money into Chainlink and more money into OMI when that does happen.
Yeah, I got pretty savage in the 2018 pullback. Essentially, I invested 15,000. This time, October 2017, it turned in about 165,000. Even though I didn't know what I was doing, I picked very mediocre picks. I didn't know how to distinguish a great project from a mediocre one. So I latched on to what my friend had done well. I bought what he had done well on. So it still went up from there. He had experienced a lot of the gains and I caught some of that. I did happen to sell the top on that, but I rolled it into some other projects that then did really good, and then they didn't. And they reversed many altcoins last cycle, reversed 99 to 99.5%. And it's really savage on your altcoins. And Bitcoin in comparison retraced about 85%, and Ethereum retraced like 90%. It went from $1,400 all the way down to $70. And so just know that it savages crypto. Now, there's a chance we play, every cycle it catches you off guard a little bit. 2017 didn't play out exactly like 2013. 2013 had this early year run, and then it had a late year run. 2017 played out differently, and there was a lot of personalities that were saying, oh my gosh, it's just going to keep going up. Bitcoin's going to be at 200,000, or I'm going to eat my male part, and some other things that were said. And I was like, oh, they must know that it's not going to retrace or whatever. And this technology made sense to me was going to change the world. But when you have a parabolic move and things have outsized gains like 20x, that's an overboom, and an overboom is going to lead to a correction. And so I can't tell you where the bottom of Ecomi is till I have a better sense of where the top is at. And right now we just don't exactly know. It's a guess. Total market cap's at $1 billion. It could go to a total market cap of 100 billion. And if so, even though their use case is coming to fruition and other things, I could see it having a savage retrace, because what would drive it to that is, Joe buys Ecomi and it goes up 20x, and he tells his friends. So they all jump in, and then it goes up 3x from there, and they tell their friends, and their friends end up buying in right at the top. And then as it starts to go down, they all panic sell because they don't understand the principles of investing. And so then they're like, oh, that project's terrible. And the project's great. They just invested at the wrong time. And that's unfortunately how almost every one of us comes into the crypto space, right? And so the question is, are you going to lose some money on some things? Probably. But are you going to stick around and learn from that so that you make smarter decisions after that? Because that's who makes it wealthy through crypto. That's who learns and makes smarter decisions because they got burned on their first couple. All of us did that. I did that, even though I knew better. And I had been doing investing for 20 years and other things. I thought those rules didn't apply to crypto, and they absolutely do. But what we have is shorter cycles from top to top, 4 years. We have from the bottom of the market to the top is about 2 years apart, and we have bigger swings. But the same rules do apply, and it is tech, and it's specifically a tech that's going to change the world. And so the amount of money to be made here is outsized compared to everything else. Like if you like, shoot, I wish I hadn't missed out on Google. Shoot, I wish I hadn't missed out on Microsoft. You're probably better positioned than the gains that those could have made you. Because and the hard thing is now you can look back and okay, Microsoft and Apple and Google made it, and at the time it wasn't clear who was going to make it. And so I spread my bets across multiple ones because I don't know who's going to be the complete leader in all these different fields. And so I diversify, and then I'm patient. I just let it play out, and that's worked out really well for me. In the past 4 years, I went from thousands of dollars of investment to millions in value. And if I cashed out now, I'd be crazy to cash out now because I still feel like we have some massive gains coming in the next 2 to 5 months.
Yep.
So my wife keeps telling me to cash out. I'm like, baby, no, it's too early. I gotta leave my chips on the table. I'm not cashing out now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, everyone always asks for, price predictions on all the coins, and I only do that when I really thoroughly understand the crypto and really kind of can put numbers and can actually like understand it myself, right? And so I have gone through quite a lot of different price predictions with OMI, and everyone asks for like, oh, what's it going to hit this year and or this cycle, right? And like I always say, like if the cycle actually lasts the point of these major catalysts that we need to happen, which it's they're in the works. Like Immutable is almost in that phase 3. We're going to be doing the migration, the exchanges, the master collector program. Like if we're able to make it to the end of the year, I personally believe we'll be looking at minimum a 6 cent OMI, and like that's again if they execute on everything that they've been, we've been waiting for them to execute for quite some time. And if it leads up to that point, then I do believe we'll be looking at that, especially since there will be a buildup going into the next year for Veveverse, right? Because there's always kind of that wait between hits on major catalysts that are hit and then also the build up to them. So I think because they'll be the first major metaverse in crypto besides, Sandbox or Decentraland, that's tied to such a strong project, that will have a lot of build up to it, especially when people realize what's all encompassed into it. But like I said, like I'm probably going to take 10%, maybe around that 6 cent to 8 cent mark, just because it's almost like a peace of mind. Like it's, it's natural born investing mentality, right? Where you take 10% once you're 10x and you have your initial investment back, and now it's just house money. But even then I'm like, I don't want to do it because I know by 2025, and no one knows everything, but I am strongly opinionated, I guess I should say, that it will be roughly around 80 cents to $1 come some point in 2025 when we're aligned with that Bitcoin halving again, when augmented reality has advanced in its technology and the full metaverse is really realized, especially with Facebook is building out. So I'm very confident in this project, and I mean, it just kind of makes sense to have that longevity mentality and really be a true hodler with the right moves. And that's why I'm so, confidently speaking about numbers on this project.
Yeah, I'll share with the viewers what I think my price prediction is, but I'll share with them some warnings about that. What I think it can hit and what I think it will hit are different. It can hit a very crazy number, and I'll share that in a second. But that doesn't mean when I'm playing, I still, even though I believe in it, I play it like an investment, which is why I take my initial out. Usually I take my initial out sooner than waiting for it to 10 or 20x. And actually at 8 cents is about 20x from where my dollar cost average is on Ecomi's token. And it's really, really rare that I wait till 20x to pull out my initial and then some. But I think by mid next year, it'll hit $1. And if you think about how could that even be? Oh my gosh, that would put its market cap at like 150 billion. How could that be? I mean, Ethereum's barely more than that. Well, because Ethereum will hit a lot higher than that. But I think it plays out this way. As we go closer to December, we have the first wave that really comes. And right at the end of December, we kind of have a pullback as some people cash out for tax reasons and other things. They want to liquidate, especially with the US. It's really uncertain what kind of new taxes are going to come for long-term capital gains holders. You'll see a lot of people cash out. So right at the end of the year, we'll have this big pullback. And some people will be calling the end. And I think this is where it's going to surprise a lot of people who have been in 2017. They'll be like, yes, this is okay. This is the end. And they're going to cash out. And then we're going to see another wave that goes crazy for the next 3 or 4 or 5 months, specifically in a lot of the altcoins. And they hit crazy numbers. And then all the people that cashed out from 2017 start that were around it. So we're a little bit gun shy because of 2017. And so then right when everyone from there starts to want to FOMO back in because they're missing a whole bunch is when really it will then crash once again, catching people off guard and doing things that surprise it, because the market tends to take the most amount of money from the most amount of people. And I guess my guess is that's how this plays out. But because Veve has tons of things that will be coming out and tons of things that will be coming to fruition, it'll be on everyone's lips. And the reason I get to that dollar number is it shouldn't hit $1, but that's different than it will hit $1. And if you think about Dogecoin, think about the use case of Dogecoin. Think about the tokenomics behind Dogecoin. They're terrible.
Yep.
But a billionaire tweeting about it has it having outsized gains, and FOMO creates more FOMO. So Dogecoin's market cap went to numbers that never, ever, ever in anybody's wildest dreams should it ever have hit. And yet it did. What if Dogecoin had a use case? What if Dogecoin had something that was usable that people could actually talk about other than, hey, I bought Dogecoin. How much is it going up? It's like, hey, how much is it going up? And did you get that collectible? And did you get this? And oh my gosh, do you see those Spider-Man comic books? Spider-Man #1. I just paid $35,000 for it. Wow. Do you think it'll go up from here? And so there's so much more to talk about that I think if it hits this cycle again, where it really gets on everyone's lips, that number goes up to crazy numbers, it shouldn't be ready to hit. And I think it will. Now, as an investor, even though I think it could hit those numbers, I'd be an idiot to place all my bets on it going all the way there. So there's a couple of decisions I would make. Either just decide I was going to hold it for the next 4 years, no matter what, just going to stake it. So it gave me better eligibility for the master collector, or I would take profits at different tiers along the way there, really just hoping to be able to accumulate more Ecomi or other investments, or buy that $2.7 million house I was looking at the other week that I was like, yeah, baby, that's my dream house. Okay. We made a massive long distance move not too long ago. So we're living in a luxury apartment. No apartment feels like luxury. And I convinced my wife to wait till like January or February before we buy a house. But she's like, I just settle for any house. Like, no, baby, I want a good one. So anyway, looked at that one. I was like, yes, I love it. But whether I'm going to drop that much cash, because that takes out that much cash for me to be able to buy things in the crypto winter, right?
Yep.
So I'm not decided on. And since we're not there, I don't have to decide yet. Really, I'll be deciding January or February. But some exciting things happening. And as this goes crazy, you're smart to take some profits out and put them on the side, or just decide you're, going to hold it for the next 4 years. I decided that last time. I regret that decision. So this time I'm going to play it differently, but we all have what our own risk tolerance is. We all have what our own goals are. So each of us make these decisions for ourselves. If you're in the audience, I'd love to hear your thoughts on if you're going to just hodl for the next 4 years. Are you going to take some profits? Are you going to take those profits so that you can hopefully buy even more during the bear market? And I'm going to be putting my profits I take out mostly in stable coins. There's a platform that I love called Albit, and I just did an interview with them. I think they have a great product that has some really good returns on stable coins. I'm going to place a lot of what I have there for some really good returns, while I pray that the market comes back once again to some really good numbers. That imagine if you picked up Ecomi during the bear market last time.
You'd be sitting pretty.
Ooh, yeah.
But there, like you said, like there will be another bear market, right? And like that's the name of the game, is dollar cost average. So when the price goes down, like that's when I add, right? Like I don't see it as a bad thing anymore. It's just those are your opportunities, right? Like, and you just have to make sure you have liquidity to take advantage of it. And you did bring up like and it's kind of it's refreshing to hear like someone who is so analytical into all these different altcoins and very knowledgeable in investing. Like you have a lot more experience, at least long term investing than I do. And for you to say that you believe it'll hit $1, sooner than my outlook, I think there's a lot of validity to that, right? And like it's just kind of reassurance, not only to myself, but also people in your community, people in my community, and our subscribers. And I do agree that what will probably happen, at least in this current cycle, is we will have an offset, right? We'll eventually fall into a bear cycle. But the one little asterisk I'm very, very curious about is we know Ethereum 2.0 is happening next year in Q3, or if it's true Ethereum and Vitalik just keeps pushing out because he's a perfectionist, it goes to Q4, I see that there will be another revamp, right? And I don't know if that'll initiate the whole nother cycle. Probably not. It might just be another big spike. But all projects that are tied to Ethereum probably will get a good little pump too, including, which will be OMI on Immutable X, a scale, Ethereum layer 2. So I'm very hopeful that we'll see, that little time frame to keep dollar cost averaging down and just stacking and adding to our bags. But then maybe we'll see another pump up, or even another initiator for the bull cycle that'll happen after this one, right?
Yeah, and for those who stick around, there's always good deals happening, because like Ecomi, your best chance to buy it might be right now. It might not ever return to these numbers, especially if it hits $1. Likely, in my opinion, it'll never come back to the prices at right now, ever. If it does hit $1, it gets anywhere close to that, because I don't see what their use case is. It coming back 99% or retracing 99%, maybe 70%, maybe 75%. And that's if it hits $1. If it hits 50 cents, might retrace, who knows? It depends on how well the bear market goes for it, but they do have a lot of function there. One of the downsides of the last bear market was there wasn't a lot of projects that actually had use cases and function. This time will be different because there are a few. There's not a ton, but there are a few, and Ecomi is definitely one of those. So we don't have a pattern to look at to know exactly how it'll play out. Now, in Binance's case, that had function, it had a use case, it didn't even retrace. Chainlink was coming out during that time, but they continue to have a team that continue to make the right partnerships, and they developed a lot of belief. So nobody was selling their tokens. They were just acquiring new people holding it. So it continued to go up. Will Ecomi be in that? I don't know. It could, but if it does hit some crazy numbers like $1, like I think, there's almost always a retrace from big numbers like that. And sometimes they're pretty savage, because when people FOMO in, they also FOMO out. They panic sell. And so that's why the retraces are really nice for those investors like me. I just watch it. When I see these large green candles, even if I miss it, I was like, well, that will come back. And I'm almost always right. And if it doesn't, I just look for other opportunities. I refer to it on my channel as I don't chase boats that I missed. Imagine you're standing on the dock and oh my gosh, that boat that's 3 miles out there, that looks so good. I don't swim after that. I don't chase into those green candles. I was like, oh, there's all these boats at the dock. Yeah, but BitBoy isn't talking about them. I'm like, I know, right? That's when I buy them. Actually, one of my sell signals is when BitBoy is talking about it, or other channels, right? Because a lot of channels, there's this incentive to cover exactly what's pumping and whatever is on everyone's lips. Well, that's exit time for me. That's when I'm selling. That's not when I'm stocking up. I started getting nervous if I'm stocking up on something and everybody's covering it. I'm like, oh, am I too late on this? I like to cover things when people have kind of forgotten about them and they're boring. And it's funny, like I remember, what was it? Theta was on everybody's lips 4 months ago. It's like, oh my gosh, Theta is great. And like, I actually made a mistake and sold some of my Theta too early. I was having some fun flipping it in the bear market, and I flipped out of all of it at like 21 cents. The rest of it, I picked it up at like 7 cents. And then it went absolutely crazy. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's one of my funny stories. But when it hit these crazy highs, they're like, oh, you should get back in the state. I was like, no, I don't chase boats I missed. And I have missed that huge. I sold that at 21 cents. It's like $14 now. And I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, I haven't heard anyone talking about Theta for a while. That's my clue that I start looking at it. Okay, okay, what do I think of the market cap and everything? Because when you buy when it's boring, and this works in the bear market too, because even in the bear market, you have things go down and they pump up. And this fun little thing I did in the bear market, I didn't figure it out till the later end, is when you hit these ridiculous lows for a project and you know it well, I would just buy a bunch of it and I would set it up so it would sell half on the double. And then it would, like, some news event would come out, it would double, and then it would come back down. And so then I got my initial investment back out and I was able to buy more. I was like, this is the funnest thing ever. So it helped me keep my mind, because the crypto winter is very boring. That gave me something interesting to do that was fun. Unfortunately, I only figured that out near the latter end. And so this time I'll be doing that, as well as the same principles apply, that you buy when it's boring. And what I love about Ecomi, of course, Taps is covering it a lot, is because there is so much happening on it, and there's a good community behind it. And it is a really interesting project with good long-term perspective. And it hasn't been covered by the major channels for a while. Well, I don't know about you, but that's when I like to be buying. That's when I like to be stocking up. And then when I'm hearing about it on the top 5 YouTube channels, like every day, that's like me evaluating, okay, how much, let me take some profits now, because it's on everyone's lips. And that's an exit signal for me. Definitely not a buy signal.
Absolutely. What are I have a question for you. I'm curious. I mean, I know you cover a lot of different altcoins. What are your, I guess, top 5, or the ones that you're a big fan of right now, just given, how many projects you have covered?
One of the ones that's really been on my mind lately, and I've been studying it really in depth for like 7 or 8 months. And at first, I didn't really understand what it was. First, their token name is very different from their project name. The project name is Albit, and their token is a freeway token. And so I did make a lot of money from a project called Celsius,
Mm-hmm.
like a while ago. And I looked at Celsius and went at 3 cents. I waited to buy it till it was like, it hit like 50 cents. Then I bought it on a retrace down to like 37 cents. And I was kicking myself because I could have got it way cheaper. And I sold at $7. So I made amazing money on Celsius, but I would have made better money. And Celsius always made sense to me. They're like, okay, we're going to have this token. And when the platform's done, you can stake your token and you can get returns on it, or you can put Bitcoin on it and we'll give you returns on your Bitcoin. So what they were saying made sense. I just didn't buy the token early because I didn't get around to it. So I first heard about Albit and Freeway Token, that, oh, wow, they have these things called superchargers. And so you can buy Cardano supercharger and they'll pay you 20% return on your Cardano. Like, you don't literally bring Cardano over. You have to bring in like US dollar tether or a stable coin, and you buy. So essentially, say I have 100,000 Cardano. I can sell my 100,000 Cardano for US dollar tether, bring them into the platform. I can then buy 100,000 Cardano on their platform, but I have to hold 20% of their tokens. So I'd have to then get 20% of the entire value. And in this case, let's just say Cardano is $2. So I've got 200,000 over there. So I need 40,000 worth of freeway token to fully unlock the supercharger for that. But then the staking returns on Cardano is like 4.5%. But in the Cardano supercharger, what they're doing is they're essentially using some quant trading on that, and they make really good returns, and they return most of those returns to you. And so they've been paying out consistently 20% average yearly returns on that. So if you're going to hold something long-term, really exciting to use that. Now, a lot of people haven't really realized how powerful what they're doing now. And the project only has like a total market cap that's ridiculously low, I think 40 million. And so that one, I've just been put dollar cost averaging into it as much as I can. Now they're sponsoring, they're one of the sponsors of the blockchain summit coming up in Malta, and they're going to start their advertising soon. So for right now, it's not on a lot of people's lips. It's not on a lot of people's minds. Their token has been hovering under a penny for a long time. Their total market cap right now is 33 million. Their fully diluted market cap, if all their tokens were in circulation, still only 84 million. So I like those numbers. And from here, like, I think Celsius is like at a $3 billion market cap. And I put them in a similar category, but better, because Celsius, if you hodl your stable coins on there, I think they pay 6 to 8%. Mm-hmm. Freeway token pays 40%. And I did an interview with the CEO just recently, and he said, our biggest downfall is that we tell people 40%. They can't believe it. And so he's like, we're just going to start telling people like 10% or some lower number, so that like that way, then when they get extra, they're just like, oh my gosh, because I had this problem. I was like 40%. That seems too high. So some kind of pyramid scheme. Oh, they're licensed and regulated out of the UK. Oh, they just passed all the hurdles to be able to open up a platform in the US. Okay, so definitely not pyramid scheme, because nobody with pyramid scheme ever would go through the regulatory hurdles to get that done. I was like, okay. So, but yeah, I was like, I love this. And so I plan to put a bunch of, when I take profits, put a bunch of it into their stablecoin supercharger, but then I have to hold a lot of their freeway tokens. So I had accumulated some, but then I thought, there's going to be a lot of people like me when these superchargers really start getting some momentum and everyone's hearing about them and talking about them. And freeway token is going to get scooped up by a lot of people because they have to hold 20% of the value of their portfolio in that freeway token, and the price on this is going to go crazy. Why am I not just stocking up on freeway token for the investment sake too? And so that's been on my mind the last 3 weeks. So I was like, man, I need way more freeway tokens. So I've accumulated like 3 million, 3 billion. I don't remember, a lot. And I want a lot more. And so it couldn't be 3 billion. It's got to be, 3 million. And I want a lot more of it. So the challenge is I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to sell to roll into that? So I've been kind of taking ones that have already hit part of the gains that I'm pretty happy with. And I've been selling those to buy in more. But we might have another couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months before it really takes off. It's like Ecomi. You don't know when it's really going to take off. You can do some technical analysis, see the momentum's going the right way. But then all of a sudden it'll pop just like Ecomi at some point soon. It's going to break previous all-time highs, probably come back and correct to that level, and then it'll be off to the races. And then it's quite possible with Ecomi that token price never comes back to again. And freeway token, probably the same thing. So that one's been on my mind. I'm big on the gaming and NFT tokens. Just, I think some of them will only survive for like this cycle, even some of the ones I'm investing in. So I asked myself, okay, how well will this do? Okay, this one might only be doing well for the next 3 or 4 months, because there's a lot of reasons for video games to go to NFT technology. If you think about it, we all want World of Warcraft to have NFTs so that we can sell all the items we have on our World of Warcraft account. I don't actually have a World of Warcraft account. I did play a different one called EVE Online, but massive MMORPGs. But a lot of those makers of those take a long time to make. So what's going to come first is a lot of the simpler games like Pocket Arena. And so I'm doing a giveaway in my Telegram group for, I did a partnership with them where I fronted the money for 4 castles. And so in my Telegram group, you can get the instructions to follow those instructions and have a chance to win one of those 4 castles. My guess is those castles do really well as NFTs because there's a use case for them and there's a scarcity to them. And so my guess is they appreciate really well. And so I'm really big on NFTs with use cases, especially, or projects, some of the video game stuff, like you mentioned Illuvium earlier. That one's going to be, because such a high-end level game, it's going to be a few years before it's ready, but could end up being one of those world-changing games. Kieran Warwick, brilliant guy, a solid team. They've been working on this for a while. They're not a fly-by-night company, and their concepts are really good, and their tokenomics are interesting. When that game comes out, I'm definitely going to play it. I think that's one of the games that if you don't have a lot of money, my guess is the way they structure things, if you go out and play it, you can earn a lot of things that end up having a lot of value down the road. Yep. And so I love that game because I don't think it's so much pay to win so much as play to win, and that you're playing to win to earn, especially if you keep some of those early Illuvium that you catch. I think those down the road, if the game really catches on, some of those could go for really, really expensive prices. That one's a lot of fun. Star Atlas, unfortunately, I didn't get into the IDO. They launch on paid network. I didn't get a lottery ticket on that, but Star Atlas, I'm not buying the token. The price is really high right now. I wait till everyone forgets about it, especially with such a long build time. And it might happen with Illuvium too, which I don't hold any of their token right now. But like they went through a really big hype cycle like 3 months ago and everyone was talking about them. I wait till it simmers down, cools down, and everybody kind of forgets about them, especially when they have longer development cycles like that. And then that's when I'd like to stock up on them. But for now, some of the launch pads, I do like launch pads, specifically some of the gaming ones like Game Station is launching pretty soon. I did a video covering them for my community. It's like, hey, if you can get their tokens cheap, because a lot of people aren't talking about them, but they have the right connections, so they'll probably be able to get good gaming projects to launch on them. You know, if you're outside the US, it's those launchpad tokens can do well. And if you're inside the US, you can hold the token, but you usually can't participate in the IDOs. And so if you're outside the US, it's a little bit better of an investment for you than if you are in the US, because when the market gets hot, and if you're holding good enough tokens to qualify for some of the drops, what I saw in March is the launchpad tokens went really crazy. But also, if say you got a $500 allocation, I was lucky, I got a $200 allocation to ShopX or Split. Within 3 days, that was worth $17,000.
Wow.
And so there's going to be a lot of that happening. So it drove up, specifically that was on the paid, their Ignition launchpad. And so the token for that is the paid token. And so their token shot all the way up to like $7. And I think it IDO'd at like 4 cents. And so I think some of these launch pads, in fact, almost all of them will do well, but some will do extremely well. And I think GameStation, there's a few other ones positioned really well, because I think a lot of momentum will go toward video gaming, this space, video gaming and the projects, and that a lot of them will blow up, which will create a lot of FOMO. And then people are just throwing mad money at anything with an NFT icon on it.
Yep.
They shouldn't. They should do their research, but that's how people behave when they're first coming in. Unfortunately, a bunch of those will lose money and leave the space for forever. We try to grab onto as many of them and like help them understand these principles so they don't lose as much money. But sometimes I think, like, one of the things I love about your channel is all the substance. There is this strong incentive to be nothing but sugar, right? Like cover exactly the ones that are pumping.
Yep.
And it just pumped 50x and be like, why, this is going to go 100x from here. And there's no way in the world it's going to go 100x from here. But that gets you 70,000 views per video if you do that. And there's an incentive towards that. You know, as a creator, you're balancing that against, well, if I give them substance, they hopefully will make better decisions and won't go broke, and they'll be with me for the long term.
Yep. That's always the goal, like, right? Like we always see what's pumping and what's being talked about. And as a creator, like, you can choose to chase that and present that information because it's what's pumping now, or you can focus on, I'm trying to build a community. I'm trying to build smarter or just more educated investors. And ultimately, like, I'm learning from some of my community as well. Like, they're like, oh, hey, have you heard of this project? Have you heard of this? And like, it just builds more stickiness and more longevity to what you're trying to do as an investor. So instead of just chasing what's hot, you're actively looking for the hidden gems or the not, pumping immediately that's going to pump. So I completely agree. But, that's why, I follow your channel, and I highly recommend my subscribers as well. Check out Crypto Rain if you don't already, because he's definitely done OMI videos as well as tons of other altcoins as well. So, I really value this conversation. It's been really great to kind of have a similar kind of mentality and someone to speak to in this sense. So I really appreciate being able to connect.
Yeah, I appreciate you joining us. Thank you, Dr. Stuff is my business manager, for setting this up. Really appreciate you doing that. Really enjoyed getting to know you. I look forward to talking to you more. I love the way you think. And that's what I look for in the people that I spend any of my time watching, is the ones that think kind of like you do. There's substance over the sugar, right? And so that's why I watch your videos. And there's not many content creators that I watch on a regular basis, but you're one of them.
I really appreciate that. And same.
Well, great. Thank you for joining me, Taps.
Of course. Thanks so much, Crypto Rain. I hope you found value in our conversation. And if so, please hit the like button and leave a comment down below. The likes and comments appease the algo overlords and help my channel to continue to grow. And if you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and make sure that you go subscribe to Crypto Rain's channel as well, as he makes incredible content. That's it for today. I'm Taps. Thank you for your time, and happy trading.